Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Welcome to Grain Gab, a show where we sit back and gab about what's going on in our minds with the grain markets and how it affects you, our producer, and what to do about it. Look, the grain markets are ever moving, can be really crazy and downright emotional. That's why we're here to sit down, look at things holistically, and find a strategic yet grounded approach to handling the obstacles that markets may give us. I'm Lori Nelsen, your host, and with us we have Kristin Stien. Kristin, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm hunkered down in this snowmageddon thing. I think the better question is, every time we're on this show, you have a different background. So are you messing with us in the technology side, or are you more of a Where's Waldo type of style?
I am at my parents' house in eastern Iowa. I got stuck here. I'm thankful that I'm able to hunker down here.
How lucky are you to be stuck in God's country?
I know. I know. We have 12 inches of snow. We went out and moved it last night. We'll see where I land this afternoon if I can get home or not.
Good stuff. So what's in the cup today? What are you drinking today?
What's in the cup? So today I've got my dad's cup. It seems like I always find that when I come here, and there's just water in it. How about
cheers.
You? What do you got?
I'm going straight up black coffee right now. We've got lots to talk about, and Lord knows I need the caffeine to get through it. So,
okay. All right. So this month, the markets have just been kind of a bummer. We've got the funds. They're about 200,000 contracts short on corn. They've now moved to about 8,000 contracts short on beans. Brazil's getting some rainfall, which was much needed, and some analysts have begun to cut production estimates for beans, but we're seeing some improved precipitation that, many market analysts feel more optimistic about. So how do we weigh that right now? Demand struggles. The U.S. corn exports are cheaper than Brazil and Argentina, yet our exports continue to struggle. China's economy keeps China buyers on the sidelines. So we'll see what happens with demand. And on Friday, 11 o'clock, we have our January WASDE and quarterly stocks report. It's possible that we could see higher production, higher carryout numbers in both corn and beans. And Kristin, what's the report going to say?
Hell, Lori, I don't know. You know this. We go through this every time the report comes out. You ask me what I think is going to happen, and it's always a crapshoot, right? I don't know. I think if I were to throw back my guess and you force me to put a bet on something, it's that we have higher corn ending stocks. Beans, I'm kind of neutral on, right? Well, I think demand has started to back off. I still think they could pull that yield down. So we'll see how that pulls forward. But as you know, as well as I do, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the numbers will say what they say, but at the end of the day, it's more of what did the numbers say to those that put a position on before, and how are they reacting afterwards, which can completely cause chaos and wreak havoc on a market right after that report, especially these January reports where so many numbers are coming into the play. And so, sometimes it doesn't even make sense why the market's doing what it's doing shortly thereafter the report. And it can cause a lot of stress, a lot of emotion. And I've had a few calls coming in already like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And it's like, hold on a second. Let's take a deep breath and just look at what that long-term plan is from our hedging strategy and just say, does this still make sense for what's coming at us going forward?
Yeah. So if we set that report aside and we just talk about, what we talked about in those high level points, you kind of alluded to it. What does this mean going forward when we're looking at over 2 billion bushel carryout, 94.9 million acres planted, that 174.9 bushels to the acre, exports not exciting, global competition is growing. So what does this mean going forward?
So, there's a lot of stuff that we just threw at them from different information. And by the way, there's a lot of stuff that will come down the pipeline that we have no idea what it's going to say. We don't have the ability to know what it's going to say. That's why it's the future, and the futures market is always a guess. So the key here, I can't stress this enough as to how important it is to do the best you can with the information you have at the time, right? What does that mean? Goes back to the marketing rule of one, understanding and accepting that you can't control the markets, but more importantly, a marketing plan is not a plan without the execution side of it. right? So execute. We touched on this in the last episode about how important execution is, right? That whether it's a retirement plan or it's Taylor Swift going out on stage or it's Brock Purdy going into a game or Caitlin Clark going into a game, all of these things had a plan put in place. They practiced their butt off. They had the strategies of what they were going to do when emotions got high and things needed to be done. And then they went out and did them, right? And so right now, emotions are extremely high when it comes to the bearishness that is this market, right? Everybody's like, holy smokes, I'm not making money here. This is a scary spot. And I really want the market to go up, but I'm scared that it isn't. And this is where we usually find ourselves in the winter. Maybe not the past 3 years because it's been the crazy market that it was. But normally in the winter, is there any bullish news out there, right? And especially in this year where we're coming off of those extreme prices to the high side, then it gets even more serious because we're flirting with those break-even numbers. And so this is where we want to take a deep breath, say, hey, we were made to do this. We know what to do. We know to get our puts on, to cover that floor, to be patient for a rally. And now it comes down to actually doing it. So you've asked, what have we been doing the last month since we've talked last? This is what we've been doing, right? We talked before about knowing what that break-even is, placing the order to have the put, placing the order to have the offers in. Now it's time to actually do those things. Get the floor on before the report so your emotions aren't high and it doesn't really bother you whichever the way the market goes. Have the offer working so if it is a bullish report somehow, some way, we are ready to capture on it either way. And then there's this thing called peace in a grain marketing program that some people don't even think it's possible, but it's there, right? If I've got a floor on and I'm ready to capture upside, what's to worry about after that?
So if I hear you from farmer terms, it's like you're executing a marketing plan, and a farmer executes their seed plan, they execute their chemical plan, they execute on having their equipment prepared, executing, having a plan in place. It's that time of year that you start to focus on your marketing with the information that we have, and times are changing compared to what we saw the last 3 or 4 years. So being prepared in your operation for what's ahead of you, be engaged in your marketing plan. Don't just sit back. I saw your passion. Don't just sit back and think about it later. Is be proactive in executing, in having your put coverage, having your targets come in if there's an opportunity to be selling.
And not just talking about it, but actually doing that, pulling the trigger on the puts and actually having that, whether it's a Chicago board trade or a call with the buyer, you have the offers working, ready to pull the trigger on it, right?
How many times have we talked to a producer and I'll go ahead and take care of that, and they just don't get it done?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? How many times do you hang up with the phone and you have one other thing come in along the way? Times that by 10 for a producer that's running his own business, right? And so you producers, you do an amazing job at setting the planter just so, at ordering the specific seed for this specific soil type and making sure that this chemical applies correctly and the plan is there and you've got that honed in, right? This is the other piece of the business puzzle that you have to put into place. And it's all the more important because it's not like the last 3 years were, where we could just sell grain and make money. And so the key here is focusing on what's important. Focus on that, right? And what you focus at, you win at. And if we're wanting to win at making money, it's time to focus on making money, which is that marketing plan times the yield. You guys do an awesome job at having that yield piece figured out. Let's get that marketing honed in and actually do it.
There we go. So we're going to focus and we're going to execute. And that takes care of our show today. So thanks for joining us in this episode of Grain Gab. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and hit the like button. It really helps in our algorithms. Thank you to Paige and the Insights team for making us look good. Until next time, keep your head up and your feet grounded. Cheers.